December 26, 1944. The phone rang sharply at Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. On the line, General George S. Patton spoke four words that shifted everything. "We're through to Bastonia." Eisenhower had been anticipating this call, but not for another 3 or 4 days. Not across a blizzard. Not after the impossible 90-degree pivot that everyone insisted could not be done. For once, Patton had delivered on his promise, achieving what was deemed unachievable. What Eisenhower said in that moment, and in the hours that followed, revealed everything about their complicated dynamic, the pivotal turn of the Battle of the Bulge, and what unfolds when brilliance triumphs against all odds. This is the story of that phone call, and the words that followed. Words of relief, of gratitude, of frustration, and of reluctant admiration. Let's begin. December 19, 1944, the emergency meeting at Verdun, soon to be legendary. German forces had shattered American lines in the Ardennes, creating a massive bulge in Allied defenses. The 101st Airborne was trapped at Bastonia, a key road junction. If Bastonia fell, German tanks could reach the coast and split Allied armies in two. Eisenhower summoned his top commanders to coordinate a response. The mood was grim. This was the largest German offensive since 1940, catching Allied forces completely off guard. Commanders reported chaos, disorganized withdrawals, and confusion over German objectives. Then Eisenhower asked the critical question: "How soon can you strike north to relieve Bastonia?" Most generals hesitated, weighing logistics and troop movement calculations. Then, on December 22nd, Patton spoke. 3 divisions. Silence filled the room. Other commanders assumed Patton was posturing again. To pull 3 divisions from combat in the SAR, rotate them 90 degrees, move them over 100 miles through winter conditions, and launch a coordinated attack within 48 hours was operationally impossible. Eisenhower's response was carefully measured. He knew Patton's bold promises sometimes exceeded reality, yet he also knew Patton was the best chance he had. Eyewitnesses recall Eisenhower leaning forward, speaking quietly but firmly. "George, understand this. The 101st Airborne is surrounded. If they're overrun, it will be a disaster, militarily and for American morale. When you say December 22nd, do you mean it? Or is this optimism?" Patton met Eisenhower's gaze. "Ike, the planning is done. My staff has 3 contingency plans ready. I anticipated this meeting before you called it. On December 22nd, the 4th Armored Division will move north toward Bastonia. I stake my career on it." Eisenhower paused, weighing it. Patton had prepared for this, even before the Germans attacked, a foresight Eisenhower hadn't expected. But could Patton actually pull it off? Eisenhower decided. "All right, George, you have your chance. But understand, if you fail, if those paratroopers are lost because you promised what cannot be achieved, there will be consequences. No second chances." Patton nodded. "I'll be there, Ike. Count on it." Afterward, Eisenhower pulled his chief of staff, General Walter Bedell Smith, aside. Smith later recorded the conversation. The boss admitted he was taking a huge gamble. If Patton failed, both their careers could end. Yet Eisenhower, perhaps for the first time, believed Patton would follow through. The stakes were high. Even Patton couldn't dare exaggerate this time. Over the next 48 hours, Eisenhower received constant updates on Third Army's movement. The report seemed almost unbelievable. Patton's forces were actually doing it, disengaging, moving north, preparing to strike. By December 21st, Eisenhower allowed himself cautious hope. Patton might actually make it happen. December 26, 1944, approximately 4:45 p.m. Eisenhower sat in his office at Chef Headquarters in Versailles, reviewing situation reports from the Ardennes. The Battle of the Bulge had entered its 2nd week. American forces had stabilized the northern shoulder, but the situation remained perilous. Bastonia was still surrounded, though the 101st Airborne continued their steadfast defense. Then the phone rang. The duty officer announced, "General Patton calling from Luxembourg, sir." Eisenhower picked up immediately. "George, Ike, we're through to Bastonia." The 4th Armored made contact with the 101st at 1650 hours. The corridor is narrow, but open. We're pushing supplies through now. There was a pause. Multiple witnesses later described Eisenhower's reaction that afternoon. First came visible relief. His shoulders dropped, tension released. Then, unexpectedly, his eyes moistened. He turned slightly from his staff, gathering himself. "George, say that again. You're through?" "Confirmed, Ike." Captain William Dwight's company from the 37th Tank Battalion made first contact. "The paratroopers are battered, but holding. We're reinforcing the corridor now." Eisenhower's voice thickened with emotion. "George, congratulations. You did it. You actually did it." Then, more firmly, "How secure is the corridor?" Patton's reply was characteristically confident. "German counterattacks are hitting us, but we're holding. I'm pushing more units through. By tomorrow, Bastonia will be secure." After a brief tactical exchange, Eisenhower ended the call. He sat in silence for a moment, then turned to his staff. General Smith recorded Eisenhower's words. "Gentlemen, George Patton has accomplished something I wasn't sure possible. He promised December 22nd, and he delivered December 26th. Considering the weather and conditions, that is near miraculous." Then Eisenhower did something rare. He smiled broadly and said, "Get me a message to the 101st. Tell them relief has arrived, and send my personal congratulations to General Patton and the Third Army. They've just changed the entire course of this battle." Within hours of Patton's breakthrough, Eisenhower faced decisions on public messaging. The Battle of the Bulge had sparked panic in the United States. Newspapers speculated about German victory, Allied collapse, and whether American forces could stop the Wehrmacht. Bastonia's relief was the first genuinely good news since the offensive began. Eisenhower's public statement, released December 27th, was carefully worded. "Units of Lieutenant General George S. Patton's Third Army have successfully broken through to relieve American forces surrounded at Bastonia. This operation, executed under extremely difficult winter conditions and against determined enemy resistance, demonstrates the fighting quality of American soldiers and the operational excellence of their commanders." The defenders of Bastonia displayed extraordinary courage and determination. Their relief by Third Army forces marks a turning point in repelling the German offensive. The statement diplomatically praised both the 101st Airborne's defense and Third Army's relief operation. Privately, however, Eisenhower's words revealed more. To British Field Marshal Montgomery, coordinating the Northern response, he wrote, "Patton's performance in relieving Bastonia was exceptional. The speed with which he pivoted his army and launched a coordinated attack exceeded my expectations, and likely German expectations as well." To General Bradley, Patton's immediate superior, Eisenhower was more candid. "George delivered when it mattered most. Despite frustrations with his behavior, this operation justifies keeping him in command. He accomplished what no other general could have." Eisenhower also sent a personal note to Patton. "George, congratulations on a brilliant operation, brilliantly executed. Your planning, your army's execution, and your personal leadership made the difference. I am proud of what Third Army accomplished. However, this does not erase past issues, nor grant license for future insubordination. You've proven what you can achieve when you follow orders and operate within command structure. Continue that, and there is no limit to what you can achieve." The message was quintessential Eisenhower, genuine praise, tempered with boundaries. Success did not excuse everything. In the days following Bastonia's relief, Eisenhower's diary entries and private letters revealed his complex feelings. These were not public statements, but honest reflections on command, leadership, and the burden of managing difficult subordinates. On December 28th, Eisenhower wrote to his wife, "Patton has done something extraordinary. I have spent so much time frustrated with George, his ego, controversies, insubordination, that I sometimes forget why I retain him in command. Bastonia reminded me, when the stakes are highest, when situations seem impossible, George delivers. I do not know if any other general could have achieved what he did. That is simultaneously reassuring and concerning. Am I too dependent on one difficult man?" To General George Marshall, Army Chief of Staff, Eisenhower was analytical. The Bastonia operation highlights both the strengths and challenges of coalition command. Patton's operational execution was flawless, the kind of aggressive, mobile warfare we need. However, his ability to anticipate this crisis and prepare contingency plans raises questions about subordinate autonomy. Patton anticipated a German offensive that most of us missed. He was correct. We were wrong. How do we balance foresight with unified command? In his personal diary, Eisenhower was brutally honest. George exhausts me. Managing him requires more energy than 3 normal commanders. Yet his achievements at Bastonia justify every frustration, every controversy, every moment I wanted to relieve him. The paratroopers at Bastonia owe their lives to George's speed and aggression. The Battle of the Bulge could have ended in catastrophic defeat without his response. I cannot fire a man who saves battles. I cannot even reprimand him when he proves his methods work. This is the impossible position George puts me in. He is right too often for me to change him, but difficult too often for me to enjoy working with him. Perhaps most tellingly, Eisenhower wrote to British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, "General Patton has demonstrated why, despite his difficulties, he remains invaluable. His relief of Bastonia may have saved the entire Ardennes campaign. I want you to know this, because concerns about Patton's temperament exist. Those concerns are valid. But his operational capabilities are equally valid. At this stage of the war, we need his abilities more than easy personalities." The relief of Bastonia permanently altered Eisenhower's view of Patton. It created a new balance in their relationship, one based on proven results rather than potential, on demonstrated achievement rather than promises. In January 1945, Eisenhower convened a commander conference to review lessons from the Battle of the Bulge. Discussing Third Army's performance, he stated publicly, "General Patton's relief of Bastonia represents one of the outstanding operational achievements of this war. The speed, coordination, and aggression displayed by Third Army set a standard for mobile warfare. Other commanders would do well to study this operation." This was significant. Eisenhower was highlighting Patton as a model, something he had been reluctant to do given Patton's controversies. But Bastonia had earned him that recognition, at least operationally. However, Eisenhower made clear this did not grant unlimited license. In a private meeting with Patton in February 1945, he reportedly said, "George, Bastonia earned you credibility that will last the rest of this war. Do not waste it. You have proven you can achieve the impossible when it matters. Now prove you can follow orders when they do not suit your preferences. Be the general I know you can be, one who delivers miracles, but respects command structure." For the remainder of the European campaign, Eisenhower gave Patton more operational freedom than other commanders. Third Army received ambitious objectives and the resources to achieve them, with less micromanagement than before Bastonia. Eisenhower had learned Patton performed best with clear objectives and room to maneuver. Years later, in his memoir Crusade in Europe, Eisenhower wrote, "General Patton's relief of Bastonia vindicated my decision to retain him despite numerous controversies. His rapid movement of 3 divisions through brutal weather, his aggressive attack, and breakthrough to the surrounded garrison demonstrated operational excellence at the highest level. History will judge Patton by his battlefield achievements, and Bastonia stands among his finest." In private correspondence decades later, Eisenhower was more personal. "George and I had a complicated relationship. He constantly frustrated me. But when I received that phone call on December 26, 1944, hearing, 'We're through to Bastonia,' I felt profound relief and gratitude. In that moment, all frustrations vanished. George had saved those paratroopers, and possibly the entire Ardennes campaign. That is what I remember most, not the controversies, but the moment he delivered exactly when it mattered most." The phone call announcing Bastonia's relief was more than a tactical update. It was vindication, validation, and the defining moment of the Eisenhower-Patton relationship. Eisenhower's words revealed admiration, relief, and the burden of commanding difficult genius. If this story of leadership, pressure, and impossible achievement resonates with you, subscribe for more untold moments from history's greatest commanders. Hit like, Leave a comment about leadership and managing difficult subordinates, and share with anyone who appreciates the complexity of command. Thank you for watching.